I almost forgot to plan one of my cool fun facts to open my video with. But as you can see just here, there's a Lexus SC430. I wanted to get close to it, but there's a bunch of people standing around it. But the fun fact about that, the Lexus SC430, which James May and Jeremy Clarkson claim is the worst car in the world, was the last production car to be offered with a cassette player as a standard. Now you know. So, it being a rather pleasant day, the temperature gauge in the car said it was 17 degrees out, but Jesus, I believe it. I thought I'd come for a lovely hike while I talk about the world of cars and motorsport. This is Crewe Woods, which some people might be familiar with. It's a gentle mountain walk, nothing too extreme. And when you get to the summit, there's some lovely views. So let's get into it, shall we? So I'm going to start today's proceedings with Formula 1, because we had the first race of the season, weekend just gone. The Bahrain Grand Prix. It's supposed to be in Australia. Melbourne is usually the, is the fucking pockets. Is usually the traditional opening round for the last good few years, although Bahrain did make a spontaneous opening race. I think 2010, Alonso won, didn't he? His first race for Ferrari. But yeah, I like, Bahrain's not a bad circuit, of one of the more modern day circuits. Undulations and good corners and stuff, rather than the absolute flat rubbish you get from some of these purpose-built racetracks built in the middle of deserts. But the good thing about it, Melbourne is kind of is essentially a street track, so it can be hard to judge exactly where everyone is when they're racing on a street circuit. So Bahrain was probably a good test to see where everyone is, because winter testing is, again, very hard to judge. You don't know what engine maps people are using or what fuel loads they're using. So I'm going to go through everyone's performance and how they finished the race in reverse order. So I do have the race results here, because I'm not that good with remembering. I remember where most people finished, but look, oh yeah, I have the memory of a goldfish. So anyway, probably the most apt opening to someone's Formula 1 career. Probably one of the most hated Formula 1 drivers before he even turned a wheel in the sport, Nikita Marzipan, driving for Haas, and he was quite a bit off the pace to his teammate with a famous name who I'll get to in a moment. But Nikita Marzipan was incredibly impatient, put the power down on the curb at turn 4, I think it was, lost control and put it into the barriers, and he was the first person out of the race. He was the only person to crash out of the race, and deservedly so. The guy's a prick. As I've said before, I'm not going to get into the details of Nikita Marzipan. Marzipan is his real name, but I like to call him Marzipan. So he was the first retirement of the race by throwing it into the wall. And we'll probably see more of that as the season goes on, because he's a gobshite. Then the only other retirement in the race was the returning legend Fernando Alonso. He got a good bit in, because it says here he did 3 pit stops. But he was the only person to actually retire with a mechanical problem, and it was a really annoying one too. It was some debris, which turned out to be a sandwich packet, got into his rear brake ducts and caused his rear brakes to overheat. And without rear brakes on a Formula 1 car, that will always end badly. But he was certainly on the pace, and he was certainly hasn't lost any of his wheel-to-wheel combat. There was a great bit where Alonso, Vettel and Sainz were going for a 3-way battle into the opening corner and into turn 2, 3 and 4, which was great to watch. But unfortunately he didn't finish his race, and the Alpine, which was a Renault, not looking like the most competitive car, but it's early doors. But good to see that Alonso is back, and he's quick and he's competitive, and he wasn't bitching and moaning, although, as I said, it's early days yet, but not a bad start for Alonso, bar the fact he had to retire. So then the person who finished last of those who finished, Nicholas Latifi, he wasn't having a great weekend all weekend. From practice onwards, he couldn't get comfortable with the car at all. He felt like it was pushing on when he was braking into corners, and a lot of instability at the rear. Said he was 5 laps down. I don't know how he managed to be that far down the grid. He had 3 pit stops. I wonder, did he actually retire before the end of the race but was still classified? Because then after him then is Pierre Gasly, who was 4 laps down. Poor Pierre had a bit of a difficult race as well. I can't remember. Yeah, he had contact. Who did he have contact with? But anyway, yeah, he qualified well. The AlphaTauri looks quick, but yeah, a few technical gremlins. He lost some body work. Yeah, he's going into the weekend so positive. That seems to be a problem with Pierre. When he gets really upbeat about a weekend, it tends to go pretty crap for him. But you know, he's promising, and he seems to have a spring in his step, literally, because he skipped into his garage before the race after he was being interviewed. But I think he was very vocal about how he got demoted from that Red Bull post-season, which happened a couple of years ago, but he was very vocal about it now, and you kind of get the feeling maybe he has something lined up for 2022 onwards outside of the Red Bull circle. Well, Pierre's got lots of talent, and I like Pierre, so he's been through the mill the last couple of years, the demotion, and he lost one of his best friends, Antoine Hubert, at Spa in 2019, that tragic accident in Formula 2. So yeah, hopefully things improve for Gasly going forward. And then we have the famously named Mick Schumacher, son of 7-time world champion Michael Schumacher. And he finished his first Grand Prix. He finished 16th. He had a bit of a spin in the Haas as well, like his arsehole teammate Nikita Marzipan. But he didn't hit the wall, thankfully. And luckily he finished his race. You know, that's kind of what Mick needs to do, I think, in his first season of Formula 1. Keep his head down, finish races, and take any opportunities that might come his way. And if he manages to dominate the inter-team battle at Haas against Nikita, I think that will be the best outcome he could have in his debut season. Because in Formula 3 and Formula 2, it took a season for Mick to really kind of get comfortable before he showed what he could do. Obviously, he managed to win the championship in both of those in his second season. Not that he's going to do that in Formula 1. But yeah, and like he was comfortably ahead of Nikita all weekend. He was about half a second ahead of him through all the practice sessions, and then he qualified 7/10 ahead of Marzipan. So yeah, a decent opening gambit for Mick. He finished the race, as I say, and you know, he kept his nose relatively clean, bar a spin. In fact, he finished ahead of 2 other cars, albeit they were a couple of laps down and had lots of issues, but you know, not a bad start. So yeah, I look forward to seeing what Mick can do. As I said, just hopefully just keeps his nose clean, and then he should settle in nicely. Just ahead of Mick was Sebastian Vettel, Sebastian Vettel was very close to Michael back in the day. He grew up watching Michael Schumacher like I did, and he sees Michael as a hero. And you know, he's quite close to Mick off track. But poor Sebastian, he had a very, very crap weekend. He went into his first race with Aston Martin, kind of on the back foot. He essentially had less than a day's running of pre-season testing, because there only was 3 split between him and Lance, and lots of technical gremlins. He got very little track time, so he went into the weekend on the back foot. He qualified 18th, partly because he got hit with 2 yellow flags, one for Nikita Marzipan, who broke a gentleman's agreement that all the drivers have in qualifying by overtaking people on his outlap, and then he overtook everyone and spun and brought out the yellow flags, which unfortunately Sebastian, he came to it just before the flags came out, but he didn't drop his speed when the warning came up on his screen to say there's yellow flags out. And then further into the lap, Carlos Sainz had a bit of a technical gremlin, and the other flags were brought out for him as well. So although he qualified 18th, which was pretty poor in itself, he then got demoted to the to the back of the grid, and he got 2 penalty points for ignoring the yellow flags. And then in the race, he had a good start, and he had some good battles. As I said, he had battled with Alonso and a few others. He had 3 battles, I think, all in with Yuki Tsunoda, the way the pit stops and stuff went. He did run as far as 6th at one point, but only because Sebastian was the only driver to do a one-stop strategy, which is something I'll get into now in a second. Is that like nearly everyone did multiple pit stops, which is great to see, because one-stop strategies are boring. When there's multiple pit stops, it opens up so many variables. But yeah, Sebastian was the only person to do a one-stop strategy, which didn't really work. But the worst part was he was closing in on Esteban Ocon in the Alpine, and he was going to get him eventually. He had more pace than Ocon, and when he going into turn 1, he ran into the back of Esteban, causing Esteban to spin and obviously picking up a bit of damage to the rear of his car. He was on the radio straight away claiming, "What's he doing? He moved under braking," which is kind of classic Seb, who admittedly when he gets out of the car he usually realises the error of his ways, and post-race he did admit it was completely his fault. But yeah, then so he finished, where did he finish? Sorry, 15th. We hear the truck coming along my hiking path. There's a lot of logging that goes on up here. As beautiful as this forest is, it's full of spruce pines, I think they are, or some sort of Scandinavian pine trees. That's the word I'm looking for. Which is, it's beautiful and tranquil, but none of these are native trees to Ireland. So as beautiful as it is, it's also not great. Anyway, sorry, back to Formula 1. Yeah, so then he got penalised then for that really avoidable crash that he had with Ocon. Thankfully both drivers had to continue, but it was messy, and he got penalised, and he got another 3 points on his licence. So the only points Sebastian scored on his debut at Aston Martin were penalty points on his licence, and if he gets 12 of them, he'll get a race ban. So hopefully he's able to improve as the season goes on, because I like Sebastian. He seems like a great bloke. He is a good racing driver. The only thing is the Aston Martin doesn't play to his strengths. Sebastian needs a car with a very positive front end and a very locked down rear end, and the new rules this year with the cutaway of the floor has kind of hampered cars that run a high rake philosophy, which means the car is set up like that rather than like that. It's more raised up at the back, high rake. And yeah, it wasn't a good opening weekend for Sebastian, but hopefully he can pick things up, because I would love to see him succeed with Aston. I'd love to see Aston succeed, because I like the team, and also I have some shares in Aston Martin, so that wouldn't hurt if they did okay. Sorry, I'm 10 minutes in and I'm not even halfway through the grid yet. So that's Vettel. Ahead of Vettel, George Russell in the Williams. So he was a good 5 places ahead of his teammate Nicholas Latifi, who had a terrible weekend. But George showed his skills. He got the best out of that Williams, which again seems better than last year's car, but it's very, very susceptible to crosswinds, and it was quite a windy race. But he kept his nose clean. Sorry, excuse me for sniffles. He kept his nose clean. There was a bit of miscommunication as to when to pit and stuff, which they didn't give him the best strategy. Maybe he could have got a little bit further up and maybe even possibly got into the points, but 14th for George Russell, clean weekend. Again, what George has to do is dominate Nicholas, keep his nose clean and pull out some of those performances when they come his way, and try and grab some opportunities, because really what George is waiting for is for a seat to become available in Mercedes and get the drive he deserves. I'm kind of now going on a route. I've done this hike several times. I've never gone off this part of the beaten track before, but hey, look, let's see what happens. I'm going to keep trucking. So where am I on now? Esteban Ocon. who finished 13th. Unlucky for some. Yeah, so getting shunted by Vettel didn't do anything. Didn't do any positives for Esteban's race, but finishing 13th is probably where he would have finished regardless. Alonso definitely had the upper hand and was running in the points until he retired. Yeah, I think that's about what Esteban would have got. I said the Alpine doesn't look like a terrible car, but it definitely needs some honing, and it seems to be very sensitive to setup. But yeah, the highlight, but the most exciting thing that happened to Esteban all weekend was getting shunted by Sebastian, and 13th outside of the points. Not great. So hopefully Alpine can improve things. Beating two-time world champion Fernando Alonso is going to be a big ask of Esteban. He's got skills, but he's going to need to up his game. Whoa! He's going to need to up his game if he's to show what he's got against El Matador, Fernando. Yeah, not a great weekend for Esteban Ocon, but again, at least he finished the race. He didn't get any sandwich packets in his. Geez, we're getting squelchy here. He didn't get any sandwich packets in his rear brake ducts, so he was at least able to finish the race. Then the two Alfa Romeos, 12th and 11th. Fucking Antonio Giovinazzi was 12th and Kimi Räikkönen was 11th. Yeah, the Alfa Romeo looks improved from last year. I think Kimi probably could have maybe got himself some points if he'd had a little bit, maybe an extra lap or two. He might have been able to get caught up with Lance Stroll, who finished 10th and got the last point. He was only a couple of seconds down on him by the end of the race. Yeah, again, pretty uneventful though for the Alfa Romeo drivers. But Kimi finished ahead of Giovinazzi, which goes to show the old guy, who's going to be 41 this year, still has what it's got. He had plenty of wheel-to-wheel action, and yeah, pretty uneventful for the Alfa Romeos. Hopefully, again, they can develop the car, because the Ferrari engine looks to be a little bit better than it was last year, thankfully. So the power isn't going to be the issue. I don't know where I'm climbing to now, I'm just climbing. But yeah, again, pretty uneventful for the Alfa Romeos. No points, but reliable, and they have at least a solid ground to work on. And yeah, Kimi still has it, and Antonio's really going to have to dig deep if he's going to keep that drive next year, because there's plenty of young guns who are looking to get into Formula 1 who probably deserve to be in Formula 1 at that. So yeah, we'll see how the rest of the year goes for Alfa Romeo. Okay, now we're getting into the point scoring positions. So in 10th place, we had Lance Stroll, who is the son of Lawrence Stroll, the person who now owns the Aston Martin Formula 1 team. Well, he owns a majority stake anyway, and he owns a majority stake in Aston Martin road cars too. He got overtaken by Yuki Tsunoda, who finished ahead of him on the last lap. But yeah, he certainly had a better weekend than Sebastian had. Like he didn't have as many issues as Sebastian had in pre-season testing or even in this opening weekend. And obviously he's been in the team for a couple of years now, so he is embedded and he's used to the car. But if Lance keeps finishing ahead of Sebastian and scoring points at that, it won't look great for Sebastian. But Otmar Safnauer, who is the team boss there at Aston Martin, he's good friends with Sebastian, and he isn't rushing to ride off Sebastian just yet. And also, Otmar's been very critical about how these new regulations, which is affecting the high rate cars. He was out saying, these regulations were brought in to penalise people like us, but pinch of salt there, Otmar, because you guys quite blatantly copied the Mercedes design, and now that it's not working out for you, pot kettle black and all that crack. But fair play to Lance, he did manage to score a point for Aston Martin. It seems like they're going to be, going off this weekend, they're going to be mixing it with Alfa Romeo and Alpine. So to score a point ahead of those two teams could be vital as the season goes on. Yeah, no, not a bad race. He kept it clean, and you know, he picked up a point. So fair play to Stroll Jr., Sir Lancelot. Yeah, not a bad weekend for him. But the car is definitely going to need some. It's going to need some developing. And then Yuki Tsunoda, the one of the three rookies, 2 Haas drivers. Yeah, the 2 Haas drivers and Yuki are the rookies for the season, and he's the youngest rookie. Yuki Tsunoda was 9 months old when Kimi Räikkönen made his debut. Kimi Räikkönen and Fernando Alonso made their debuts, and he's now racing with the 2 of them, well, against the 2 of them. But great race. I can't remember exactly where he qualified. He didn't have a great start. He lost a lot of places at the start, but he fought back through. The sun's blazing now, lovely. He fought his way through. He had some great battles. Overtook some legends of sport. He overtook Sebastian Vettel 3 times, due to the way the pit stops and stuff work. He overtook Fernando Alonso, and yeah, he had a great race. It was a great opening round for Yuki. Yuki has a lot of seems to have a lot of promise, and also the AlphaTauri looks pretty solid. Obviously, he finished ahead of his more experienced teammate and race winner, Pierre Gasly. But obviously Pierre had some technical and contact issues throughout the race. So, but no, a great opening round for Yuki, and fair play to him. He looks like he's going to have a lot of promise, and he seems like a cool guy. Like I love Japan, and I think it's good for there to be a Japanese driver on the grid, because Japanese fans, they really get behind their drivers, and it'll be great. I can't wait for Suzuka this year, because if he keeps these kind of performances up, if he gets a good result in Suzuka, there'll be great scenes. So ninth and 2 points for Yuki Tsunoda, and he managed to get 9th on the last lap by overtaking Lance Stroll in the Aston Martin. So yeah, lots of good things to come, I think, from Yuki Tsunoda. Then Carlos Sainz, the first of the Ferrari drivers, finished 8th. He may have finished higher up than that, to be fair, because he had a very scrappy opening few laps. He had a bit of argy-bargy with, was it Vettel? Yeah, he had a bit of contact, and he went a bit wide. He had to make an early pit stop, and I think he sustained a little bit of damage to his floor, which would have slowed him down. But 8th and 3 points, considering how crap a season Ferrari had last year. Sorry, wipe some sweat from my brow. It is surprisingly warmer than I was expecting it to be. Yeah, so not bad. Ferrari had a dismal season last year, so the car looks a hell of a lot better. If he hadn't had a messy opening to the race, he may have finished a couple of places higher than that, but not a bad start. Good first race for Carlos, coming into a brand new team, very different team to McLaren. So yeah, fair play to Carlos Sainz. 3 points, 8th place. Danny Rick then in 7th in his first race for McLaren. As he said himself, a bit of a dull race. Didn't do anything wrong. He obviously he's going to need a bit of time to acclimatise to McLaren. And also he is going up against Lando Norris, who he was making really steady progression in his 3rd season now in Formula 1. But I think he's going to catch up with Lando soon enough. So yeah, I think he wanted more, Danny Rick. But 7th place, and what would that be, 5 points? Am I getting the point system right? But no, yeah, not a bad first race for Daniel Ricciardo. He didn't really have a whole lot to do. He didn't get in any major battles, but he kept his nose clean. He scored some good points, and the McLaren looks tasty. The McLaren could be the best of the rest after the Mercedes and the Red Bull, judging by the way testing and the opening weekend has gone. So I hope Danny Rick, I do like Danny Rick, I hope he really finds his feet at McLaren, and we see some great things from Danny Rick. We all know he's got the talent. And then Charlie Leclerc finished 6th. He managed to qualify the Ferrari 4th, which was fantastic achievement, especially going off last year. And it seems like he might have even kind of outperformed the car in qualifying to get it in fourth. Where am I going? I've really gone off the beaten path here now. Maybe I'll stop and I'll finish the Formula 1 chat before I go any further. I'm going to find a route out. He had a pretty good race. He had a good start. He managed to, he got as far as third, I think, on the opening lap. He managed to overtake Bottas, but then the true pace of the car, eventually caught up with him, and but he held his own. Again, he had a clean race, pretty decent strategy. He was only beaten really by cars that were quicker than the Ferrari. So sixth and eighth, not a bad opening round for Ferrari, who obviously had a dismal season last year. So the car looks better. Still not where they should be, but I think they can be pleased, and Charles Leclerc should definitely be pleased with that performance. Sixth place, but hopefully there's more to come from the Ferraris, because they should be battling for wins and championships, and the drivers are certainly capable of it. So fair play to Charles Leclerc, but hopefully there's more to come. Then Sergio Perez came fifth, which was I have to say, I think that's a great achievement from Sergio, because he didn't have a great qualifying. He went out in Q2, I think he qualified 12th. Then his car had a bit of a technical snafu. I don't think you'll see me in here now. It's going to get kind of dark as I go through the trees. But his car completely shut down on the formation lap. Now he was able to do a Control-Alt-Delete on it, and he got it going again. Ooh, spooky. He got it going again, but he had to start from the pit lane, so he started dead last. Battled his way through. Did he do a three-stop? Three-stop, I don't know if that includes going through the pits at the end of the formation lap. But he finished fifth from last. The last time he started last at Bahrain, he won the race, but it was completely different circumstances and also different layout of the track. But fifth place from the back of the grid in his first race for Red Bull, in a car that's completely different to the Racing Point he would have driven last year. So Sergio showed what he's famous for. Great racecraft, overtaking people left, right and centre, and powered his way all the way to fifth place. So when Sergio gets fully embedded into the Red Bull, I don't think he'll necessarily beat Max, but if he can get close to Max, that's exactly what Red Bull need, for him to take away points from Mercedes, which has kind of been the problem with the second drivers in Red Bull the last couple of seasons, i.e. Pierre Gasly and Alex Albon, who both got demoted because of that fact, and that's why they brought in Sergio, to try and score some points. But going to be a good season for Red Bull and a good season for Sergio, so fair play to Sergio Perez. Then just ahead of Sergio, my driver of the race, I don't think he got driver of the day, maybe he did, I can't remember who did. Where's a little hut? Someone had a campfire and everything. It's kind of cool. Be fun to come up here at night. Scary. We weren't alone. It'd be good fun. Lando Norris. He'd be my driver of the race. I can't remember where he started. Possibly 5th or 6th. It's not like he made loads of places up. But he had lots of pace. He was having some good battles, and the consistent rate of improvement from Lando Norris is admirable. And 4th place, so he was ahead of one of the Red Bulls, but Sergio, that was kind of out of Sergio Perez's hands. But so to be best of the rest essentially, from the top teams, I think Lando did really, really well to get 4th place. It was a great drive, consistent, clean, plenty of pace, and he's going to have to keep that up, because I don't think it'll be long before Daniel Ricciardo catches up to him and possibly overtakes him. That's not to take away from Lando Norris. I think he's got plenty of skill, but McLaren are looking nice. I like their driver lineup. Danny Rick and Lando Norris is a good combo. So my driver of the day will be Lando Norris. I think he did a great job to pick up 4th, and podiums are definitely going to be on the cards for Lando this year. And if Mercedes and Red Bull have some scrappy races, could he get his maiden win? Maybe. And then we're down to the podium places. Valtteri Bottas. I don't know how I feel about Valtteri. He seems like a top bloke, but has he got that last 1% to that last kind of what's the word more, like, you know, cutthroat ability to be a champion? Like, he is arguably in the best car in the grid, although the Red Bull is definitely looking strong this year. But he finished third, and a distant third. He was 37 seconds down on second place. But admittedly, they pitted him on the second last lap to try and get the fastest lap point, which they did. But he was never challenging for the lead. He didn't seem to be uncomfortable in the car at all weekend. He even referred to the Mercedes as undrivable in free practice. So yeah, not great. But third place, podium. So that's what, 15 points, and he gets a point for the fastest lap. So 16 points from the opening round. But yeah, Bottas is going to have to find something if he wants to keep his seat at Mercedes, because, as I said, George Russell is chomping at the bit for that drive. I think Bottas's only chance really of keeping that seat this year is if he completely ups his performances, or if Lewis Hamilton decides to retire at the end of the year. But yeah, it's hard to say. He had a bad weekend considering he finished third, but the pace wasn't there, and yeah, he's got a lot of work to do. He has arguably one of the, if not the best, one of the best cars in the grid. But also, he obviously is going up against Lewis Hamilton. But he's had 5 seasons now to really try and show his worth, and I don't know, Valtteri's got a lot of work to do. And then we come to the top 2. Max Verstappen finished second. Started on pole, got an unbelievable pole lap. He was half a second. Excuse me. He was half a second ahead of Lewis Hamilton, which is a sizable margin in Formula 1 terms. With damage to his floor as well, so which probably cost him a tenth or two. So he could have easily been 7 tenths or so ahead of Lewis Hamilton. He led from the start, and he was comfortably in the lead. Then Mercedes pulled the plug first and pitted first, and they were trying to go for the undercut with the Red Bull, and for some reason Red Bull didn't react to the Mercedes pit stop. They kept Max out for much longer. Now, he was on different tyres, but then yeah, he stayed out, so he pitted much later. Then I think it was a good 10 laps or so before he pitted, and he didn't pull out enough of a gap, because Hamilton was actually had quite good pace after his first pit stop. And yeah, then when he came out after his first pit stop, he was behind Hamilton. I think they were hoping that the Mercedes had no medium tyres. They used them all up in practice for some reason. So I think Red Bull were hoping, that's exactly what they went for. They put Max on some fresh rubber about 15 laps before the end, and tried to get him to catch Lewis and overtake him before the end of the race, which he almost did. Now, he did overtake him at turn 4, but he overtook him off the track, which is a bit of a weird one, because the pre-race briefing, the drivers, it came out after the race that they would be allowed to run wide at turn 4, but if they didn't gain an advantage from it, which is a bit weird, because a lot of people were doing it all through the race on regular laps, not battling with people, but just on regular laps. And obviously they were gaining performance, because why would you be out there if it was going to slow you down? But yeah, he overtook on the outside. So his team told him to this was on the second last lap, his team, Red Bull, told him to let Lewis through, which he did. And then he wasn't able to get back past him on the last lap, and Lewis took the win. Max did question this approach, because what Max wanted to do was stay ahead of Lewis, because he would have got a 5-second time penalty for overtaking him off the track. So Max wanted to stay ahead of Lewis and then try and pull out a 5 second plus gap, which would have been worth it, because if he got the penalty and didn't pull out the gap, he still would have finished second because Bottas was so far down the road. Max of old probably would have just told the team to go and do one and done that anyway, but he played the team game and did what they said. So yeah, Red Bull threw that race away. Not to take away from Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes, they did everything right that they had to, and they quite deservedly won the race in the end. But it's more a factor of Red Bull throwing it away than Mercedes dominating and taking it. So like, it is promising. It was a great race. So if anyone didn't watch the race but was watching Drive to Survive, the Netflix show, and has some sort of interest in Formula 1, and then read the race result going like, business as usual. It was a brilliant race. It was the battle for the lead went right down to the end. There was battles all the way through the grid, and I said, like, there was multi pit stop strategies. It was brilliant. Red Bull lost it, but it's promising. It goes to show there is going to be a battle this season, a two-way battle, a two team, a two driver anyway, at least at a minimum battle for the championship. We've 3 weeks now to wait until the next race, the Grand Prix Emilia Romagna. It's in Imola anyway, so it'll be a good race. It's a great racetrack, although not superb for overtaking, but if the first race went to go away, we're in for a good season. So that's my rundown of the Formula 1 Grand Prix. And I realise I've been filming for over 30 minutes. So what I'm probably going to do, I was going to talk about cars, but what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to split this video. So I'll put this one out first about the Formula 1, and then I'll put out a separate video of the car news I'm going to talk about, because some people don't like Formula 1, and also this is going to be a really long fucking video. Okay, so end of part 1, if you will.